All right, welcome back to News Insight. We just finished talking about PDP, Wike, the Labour model, but Labour Party rose up as a result of the desegmented PDP, and Peter Obi went to Labour, contested under it, and he made serious waves. But now, the same Labour Party, I think, is even worse off than a PDP. Apapa says that he's still very much in the race, or he's the person that should be the Labour Party chairman. Okafor.
Yeah, I know I was the first person in this platform that mentioned that Apapa might come into the picture, if you remember.
Yeah, political prophet.
They said, no, picture Apapa again. I say, no. Because that judgment of Supreme Court, if people are finding it difficult to remove emotion and set emotion aside and probably put politics aside in politics, which is difficult. Okay, the judgment said we as court do not have jurisdiction over this. That even gives all of us grace now to discuss it the way we like. Even probably give the Labour Party to do it the way their constitution said they should do it. The last time, they were accusing INEC of not responding, of not recognizing anybody. What Supreme Court refuses to have jurisdiction on, is it INEC that will come and conduct Congress for you and determine for you? If you bring any letter, INEC will take. If any faction brings any letter, INEC will take. That INEC accept letter from you doesn't mean they will declare somebody for you or recognize somebody for you or constitute a legal network to interpret this thing for you. I want to draw your attention. Something is not detailed. Go to the Article 14 of the Labour Party Constitution. Just let's look at the section B part of it, the powers and functions of the National Convention. The final authority of the party shall rest with the National Convention, which shall have the power to.
That's the one.
Yes. No, the final authority, National Convention. You understand?
That's have the first
power
one.
To.
Yeah.
So they have the power to formulate. Let me go to where I'm going. Yeah. The number 4 of it, the subsection 4. They have the power to elect or remove national officers of the party and constitute National Executive Council of the party. Meaning that the National Executive Council of the party were constituted or have the possibility of being constituted from the National Convention. This is the National Executive Council that people are saying that gave rise or appointed Nenadi. Do you know they were referring to, where the Abure is no longer available or this is no longer available, the National Executive Council brought Nenadi. Okay, let's look at the constituent of National Executive Council a little bit. National Executive Council, the composition, that is this section 2, shall comprise, number 1, national chairman. So the National Executive Council you are referring to got themselves, their existence from the National Convention holding. And in constituency, to constitute that National Executive Council, national chairman is number 1. Number 2, 4 national deputy chairmen, at least 2 of whom must be female representative of the platform, i.e. National LLC Women Commission chairperson. 2, the president and the likes of all that. National chairman himself is also part of the National Executive Council. So these people are really finding it difficult to go back, like Apapa was saying, let's use our constitution. They are finding it difficult to really go back to their constitution. That is why Apapa was accusing P2B's section, in as much as he respected that P2B should have called everybody, if not that he has taken side. Yeah. That he said P2B got a group who also founded their group on nothing.
All right. I will come back to you with a question, but I want to find out from Philip what he thinks. According to Apapa's analogy of the whole scenario.
Apapa analogy is on his own, self-centeredness. Why do I say so? Apapa is the deputy chairman, SAT, of the Labour Party. if the chairman, by any reason, something happened to him, cannot function, Apapa steps into the shoes of the chairman. But in this case, nothing has happened to the chairman. Drawing from what he has read from their party constitution, you could see that the Inewi Convention is rightly, and legally conveyed, and elections were conducted, and the officers were elected. When you're saying about the National Executive Committee, from what he read to us, the chairman of the party is also the chairman of the National Executive Council.
Yes.
So, when you're talking about convention in political parties, it is the national chairman that call for convention, the National Working Committee, chaired by the national chairman, that will call for a party convention, which will produce the officers of the party for the next election year. So, where do you bring in Lamidi here? Lamidi is part of the National Working Committee of the Labour Party. The Inewi Convention also reproduced Lamidi as the deputy chairman from the South.
Was he there?
Of course.
See,
So it's a very interesting thing. When I said,
so we wanted to ask that you see, there is still a case in Supreme Court between Abure and Lamidi Apapa.
That case, don't you think it should have been worked out of?
Because that's why so we wanted to ask Apapa himself,
yes,
what happened to Abure, like he said. He was saying we should refer to our constitution. And the constitution, what happened to Abure?
Apapa
will come up.
Exactly. Apapa can only come up when Abure is no more there.
Is he capacitated?
Yes. And
so
the
what has
issue
happened to
at
Abure?
hand is only affecting Abure as a person, not affecting the Congress conducted, which is entirety,
or the entire
National Working Committee.
So what happened to Abure?
What is this?
Is Abure dead?
So my question
is he incapacitated?
Yes, that is why if you see the Supreme Court judgment, what is this laziness about Labour Party going to their constitution?
You see, the only time I agree
all the parties.
Excuse me, the only time I agree with Lamidi in his analysis, it is when he said the onus was on Obi to call the House together and work with the constitution of the party, because when the constitution was drawn, there was no crisis. So it is what we agreed that will govern us. But Obi has chosen to take sides and work on nothing to produce nothing, and that's in Nenadi Usman's led Caretaker.
He was not the one that.
So I agree with.
He was not the one that set it up.
So the truth remains that
See what Apapa is also saying.
Yes.
Which is also his own selfish understanding of the judgment.
Yeah.
He said the judgment, according to him, that the Supreme Court judgment has retired Abure, according to him. The Supreme Court judgment has retired Abure, okay? Because Abure went to court to recognize his position as the chairman.
Yes.
This is what Apapa is saying.
Yeah.
So to him, this is what happened to Abure. The Supreme Court judgment has retired Abure. Now, that Nenadi's Caretaker Committee is actually unknown. It's unknown to LP Constitution.
Because it was not by convention.
It's grounded on nothing.
So on what basis
So
was it
now
formed?
that Nenadi's this thing is grounded on nothing,
Yeah.
according to he said, if Mr. A dies, Mr. B dies, and there is no room for vacuum, the deputy chairman.
Hold on.
That's what he said. That's what Papa said.
Hold on.
Yes.
The Mr. A is Abure. The Mr. B is
He also gave
Nenadi.
an analogy of using a driver. He said if Oga is traveling with a driver,
Yes.
suddenly the Oga dies in accident.
No, the driver
Will the
collapse.
driver remain there? or the driver dies, or whoever, will the other one remain there? So that he will enter the vehicle and move. That he's the next to Abure. The Abure is gone.
Okay, so let me give some little analogy in some way. Recently, I've noticed that whether it's party constitution or Nigerian constitution, Nigerians have decided, especially public office holders, politicians, have decided to abandon constitution and do what is in their hand. Even to the outcry of people or lawyers or courts that say, look at the constitution. From what is happening at the National Assembly, for what is happening in Rivers State, their constitutions to this thing. The same thing has metamorphosed into what's happening in Labour Party. that the people will refuse to sit down and look at what the Constitution expresses and follow what the Constitution says.
And that is where the question comes in. If you fought any national convention at all, any of the LP national convention at all, and say that the National Working Committee time expired, okay, that you want to rely on the National Executive Council to appoint anybody, where did that National Executive Council come from? Because National Executive Council itself and the National Working Committee and all of them came from the National Convention. So if anybody's tenure is expired, all other ones are also expired, because it's the same National Convention that actually gave rise to them. This laziness of not wanting to uphold Constitution is also where the judiciary should actually come in.
But you see, for example, I'll allow you to give our takeaway. Yeah. For example, right now, we have a constitutional matter. The governors in PDP have taken it to Supreme Court for interpretation. The Supreme Court have been lackadaisical in trying to explain a matter of urgency and composing a body of judges to explain is that urgent, especially when it comes to constitutional matters.
Let Philip do that. Elias urgent 2K.
You see, we've always said it. That, look, this country is in dire need of a leader that has a focus, that has interest for this country. All of this is happening because we had not gotten a leader who want to uphold the constitution of this country. So that is why we're having this lawlessness in every segment of this society. Let me digress a little to the issue of Labour Party. When you say National Executive Council in political parties, it's an expansion of the National Working Committee.
Yes.
They just brought in more people to be involved. For instance, a party that is in power, the governors, the president, all of them, they are part of the
National Working Committee.
So in the issue of Abure, Abure and Apapa, I think Abure and Apapa are working hand in hand, because Abure never went to court. It was Nenadi that went to court. But Lamidi is telling us that Abure went to court to be recognized. Abure
on their own case. On their own case. Lamidi went to court on their own case.
That case is stopped.
No. According to me, say it's still the Supreme Court.
But the Supreme Court has given a judgment and said that they should all go back to the Constitution. So that case is not of us.
His own analysis. He said Abure went to court to be recognized. That's not happening. That never happens. You see, that is why I love this table, because we look at all the issues. We have said it, that all this issue is all the way to destroy the party. Like we started it by opening that the Labour Party became a party as a result of the crisis in PDP pre-2023 election. And what has happened to the Labour Party. I foresee a point that they say that Obi might just be the Messiah Nigeria, needed. But the forces against the interests of Nigeria, anywhere Obi went to.
So they follow him there.
They follow him and block him. We pray that he survives it this time.
Wow.
And I pray he looks beyond Labour and do not listen to those people who are also telling him, don't worry, we won 2023, we can win again. If we won 2023, you should be the president now. So it's something NLC. So if anything stop him from being president, then the wise thing is to go into that coalition, because you need power blocks.
Okay. Well, I think what Obi wanted was that he wanted to take Labour as the head of Labour in a way, not as chairman, into the coalition. But I think the move he's making right now, the obedient movement, is registering there. And I think that's one of the smartest, wisest thing that he's doing right now, and I think he should keep up with that and forget the crisis in Labour and forward. And like you said, he needs coalition. We'll be right back on News Insight.